Unrelegated Queens of the South. I'm here with someone new. This doesn't look like Alex Morgan. This looks like Jillian Gaffigan. Hi Jillian, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. If you are wondering where Alex Kelly Francis Morgan is today, she's actually with the crew at Atlanta Beer Bus celebrating their first anniversary. I decided I don't really like beer that much and I'd rather be here with Jillian to talk about soccer, our first loves. Jillian, a member of Resurgence. You also have a pretty cool job involving the beautiful game. Can you tell us all a little bit about your special business?
Sure. So I work in fan engagement. I have a consulting business and I work with teams in North America, Europe, and Australia on fan engagement issues. It can range anywhere from fan surveys to assessments on your engagement and leans into data management, CRM, revenue management, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very fun and exciting, so it keeps me close to the game. But I also put together trips maybe 5 or 6 times a year to go see teams in Europe typically, or big event type tournaments like the World Cup or the Olympics. My next trip is to the Women's World Cup in Lyon, so I'm looking forward to that, to the semifinals and the final. So hit me up if you have an interest.
That's all right for some. I think if I wasn't waiting for my green card to arrive, I might have been taking you up on that trip to France.
Yeah,
talking of working in soccer, a little update from the world of Soccer in the Streets. As you know, Soccer in the Streets is a non-profit that works to make soccer accessible. We had an amazing event this weekend. We wish you'd been playing with us, but Nations Cup, a huge success. We raised $50K. Huge thanks to all of you that donated. And I have to make a report. If Kelly was here today, she would have told you about 100 times already. Probably read it on Twitter, but Kelly did score a header.
I heard.
She scored a header. It was impressive. I won't mention the fact that the Iceland goalkeeper may have been putting his gloves on at the moment that the ball went in the goal.
It doesn't matter.
He might have been sort of adjusting his gloves. There may have been a bit of, pandemonium after Kelly scored, but she scored a header and it was beautiful. Colombia got knocked out in the semi-finals. Felipe Cardenas, MVP, very impressive.
That is
but the irony, guess who we got knocked out by in the semi-finals?
Who?
The United Kingdom.
Ah!
Yeah, I may have chosen the wrong side to play on, but it is what it is.
I didn't realize you weren't. Who were you playing for?
I was playing with Colombia. It's amazing.
Okay.
Yep. Loyalties got split. I'd rather have a happy home than a trophy in the home. So, it's amazing what love can do for you.
It is amazing. And it does sound like it went really well. Last week, when we were at the podcast, you raised $1,000 there that night.
Yeah, and thanks to Rira for that. It was a great event. We're going to look to do something a little bit similar for the Champions League, so be on the lookout for that. I think we're going to have a lot of fun coming up to that. That's June 9th, if anyone's interested in playing. So, Atlanta United. We got 3 points.
We got 3 points.
How did you feel about this weekend? How did it go for you?
Well, it was a frustrating match to watch. I think that's the response that you hear from a lot of people. It was immediate. It was the feeling in the stadium with the fans. You could see it with the players. But 3 points is 3 points. And at the end of the day, that's what we needed to do. I think the clean sheet was important. And it was important for forward movement, and we are moving forward. We are tracking back towards the mean on points per game, match by match by match. We really aren't that far away from DC United in the middle of the table, so it was a very positive day at the end. It was just hard to watch, frustrating to watch, especially the first half, which was obvious to everybody. Everybody was moving slow on the field. And so they needed to pick up the pace, and I think they came back in the second half and they did what you needed to do against a team that's defending to an extreme.
Mm-hmm. Parking the bus. I think that's what we'd call it in Europe. It was definitely a parking the bus technique, and that's what a lot of people do against Atlanta United now. They've kind of sussed this out a little bit, and they're learning that, when the defensive line parks the bus against our sort of forward playing, that it's a lot more difficult for us to penetrate.
Right. And it wasn't just parking. I mean, it was to an extreme. It was an extreme that I haven't seen at the Benz. Have you seen it to that degree before?
No, it was hideous. You talk about the first half being so awful, I think, and I mentioned it with Jason yesterday on Soccer Down Here. The highlight of the match in the first half, they show it on the Halo board, the best moment of the game, was Brad Guzan scooping a ball in a great save, everyone called it, but I'm talking about this was a slow rolling ball that he scooped. When that is the highlight of the first half, you've got to worry about the sanity of your fans.
Right.
And I'm all for playing, you know, tactics, playing games, but when you're used to the exciting play of last year, it's pretty tough as a fan to take, and I can understand some of the frustrations because people are going to miss the style of play that we used to play.
Right. And I don't think you're going to continue to see that, or you're going to see it every time. I think that Atlanta United is good at recognizing that teams are going to come into the Benz and do that. It was just an extreme. I mean, you had two lines of defenders that were just a few yards apart from one another, and at some points I was joking around that it was like watching a game of, what's that arcade game, you know, where the ball's just going around, pinball. You know, it was just hard to get around.
I was born in '94, so we didn't really have that many arcade games.
Oh no, I'm aging myself.
we had Game Boys by the time I was playing. But
okay, you were playing Pokemon. I was not. But yeah, so it was difficult,
but at least we had 70% possession, right?
Right. Yeah. And
how do you feel about that? Honestly, do you think the possession is a good thing? 70% possession, I think it was 72%, something on those lines. How do you feel about the possession versus penetration in our gameplay at the moment?
Well, actually, I mean, if you go back to the Dallas game, we had slightly greater possession at the Dallas game. So for me, possession, you know, and I know that it's not necessarily an indicator of how the game's going to go. Mm-hmm. So, and it didn't go our way with Dallas. So you can't really count on possession, but for the other team, you have to have possession of the ball to shoot and score. Mm-hmm. So their lack of possession hurt them, absolutely.
But all it takes is one chance and one lapse in possession. At the end of the day, when you have 70% possession, you're still giving another 30% for the other team to build and create chances. And when they say 1-0 is the most dangerous lead in soccer, because if the other team scores, they then have the momentum to take it another way.
Right.
So I think what's really important is we can't be relying on winning games 1-0, particularly, we talked about the shutout. Yes, we had a shutout, but how much of it was down to our defensive prowess and our defensive skill? And how much was maybe to do with the fact that Colorado was kind of lackluster in the forward play?
Well, they were not efficient. So Dallas, you know, in the Dallas game, what you saw with that similar possession numbers was a very, you know, first you saw some inefficiency in our defense. The first goal with a sort of individual mistake by LGP.
Who had a better game.
Yeah.
A much better game this weekend, and I think that's what he needed. There was a lot of, you know, LGP is almost an untouchable player, I would consider, in the Atlanta United fan base, and it was quite a shock for me to see such harsh levels of criticism. If you know, Atlanta United Fan TV has a group chat. Tanner was going absolutely ape shit on LGP. I've never read anything like it. I mean, Tanner, you're a cool guy, but oh my God. If LGP could read that, I would pick LGP in a fight against Tanner, and if I was LGP, I would probably have wanted to fight Tanner after the words he said. So
I didn't read it.
I think LGP needed a good game because he's one of those players that is a confidence player. He's a very confident player. Sometimes that's some of his downfall. He likes to go on those spiraling runs from centre back into the opposition's ends, but this time he didn't make too many mistakes. I thought he read the play better. I think I only remember him being caught out once, so that was a good thing for LGP. But like you say, did he get away with it this week because of Colorado sort of
was less effective? So, you know, the first thing that happened with Dallas is our defense was ineffective, and so it then allowed for Dallas to come in with that smaller amount of possession and to
convert two chances that we gave them.
Exploit an opportunity that we gave them and to score. So was it that they were more effective or our defense was ineffective? I think the first thing that came was a breakdown on our defense, and yeah, they were effective with that opportunity. In terms of the Colorado Rapids, I just don't think that their offense was very effective. Mm-hmm. They didn't have possession of the ball. It's not an indicator of how the game's going to go. But you do have to have possession of that ball to shoot and score. When they got possession,
particularly in the final third,
they were not doing much with it. And I don't know that it was that. I don't feel that it was that our defense was so great. I feel like they were inefficient.
Yeah.
What came first was their inefficiency when they were handling the ball.
They made it very easy for our defense to look good.
Yes.
And when we come up against Sporting KC, and we'll get to this later on in the show, they may have been weak at the back, conceding a lot of goals, but they've also been scoring a lot of goals. And I think the challenge on Saturday is going to be far stronger for our defense. And what I'm hoping is this week, we've got a whole week before the next game, that Frank is doing what, you know, he's meant to be best at, which is organizing defenders, right? I mean,
that's right.
He was a great defender back in the day, and hopefully we can finally start to see his sort of leadership as a defender and see him rubbing off as a role model. And I think one way we have seen that this season is Miles Robinson.
Absolutely, absolutely. Miles has been a joy to watch. I think for when you talk to fans, his name always comes up. People, they're excited to see him. They're excited to see him playing. I love him because he played for Syracuse, and I'm from the Syracuse area, so he's already.
So you're a bit biased.
Yeah, he's already got a leg up with me for sure. And I think that he's grown tremendously. He's a joy to watch. I mean, I just love it when he gets in the air and turns his head and gets the ball.
He tried a bicycle kick.
He did.
Do you remember Miles Robinson?
I do.
I mean, if we're talking about confidence, that boy has confidence. He's a centre-back trying a bicycle kick.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to kick the defender's head off. I'm pretty glad he failed, because that might have been pretty nasty to watch. But it's good to see young players playing with such confidence
and exuberance and getting the job done.
And what a draft we had that year. What a draft. I know Gressel's one of your favorites too.
Gressel is one of my favorites. Absolutely. Yeah, well, he's German. I'm German. He plays under 24. I played under 24.
You look like Gressel. Just how Kelly looks like Alex Morgan. You are Jillian Gressel.
Yeah, Jillian. Yeah. So again, you know, maybe not for the right reasons, but he is my favorite player on the team. And I love to watch him, and I'm so glad he got that goal.
So how do you feel about Loverboy getting into it with P.T. Martinez this weekend? I believe there might have been a little bit of verbal altercation between the two of them. What were your feelings about that?
It didn't worry me. It wasn't a problem. I mean, this happens. It's I don't think it's anything to get excited about.
I think people that play the game understand that happens, and that's not trying to stand on my pedestal or anything like that, but having played soccer since I was 4 years old, and I know you grew up playing too, you can have a best mate on your team and still scream at them.
Absolutely.
I mean, I play with Sebastian, my husband, and we will yell at each other on a soccer field, and it's okay, because what happens on the field, sort of you leave it on the field. So people people looking into it a little bit too much, I think, at times, thinking that there might be problems in the dressing room. As long as it's happening on the field, we've seen far bigger issues in the dressing room. Barco, you know, and I think this is something that's minor to worry about.
It is minor.
What about his reaction coming off the field, though? I think personally that might have concerned me a little bit more. I don't know if you've watched the video that Jay Riddle posted of him kicking Breck Shea pretty hard in the back of the chair.
My bigger concern was this isn't a big concern, but he didn't shake Tito's hand coming off.
Or Frank's.
He
ignored him, walked straight to the bench.
Your teammate is coming on. It's a courtesy. It's showing your brotherhood in this match. And so that was a little bit mildly irritating to me. The rest of the behavior, I think that a lot of people have talked about this, and I've felt it before. I'm more of an internalizer, so I don't, you were never going to see me on the field throwing a tantrum or off the field. You
will see me on the field, whether it be the soccer field, the soccer tennis field. I will throw tantrums. I'm more of a PT style player. You can catch me at the goal throwing tantrums every tailgate.
And I think that's the point. Different athletes have a different orientation towards that. There's a lot of variables in your personality, your culture, how you grew up. For me, I'd played a lot of sports before I played soccer. Some of those were individual sports that are very silent, like marksmanship. So
what is that? Is that guns?
Yes.
Freaking Americans, man.
It's a sport. So, but I played tennis. I swam. I went downhill skiing. I cross country skiing. I played a lot of sports, and so I think for me, a lot of that, by the time I kind of settled into soccer in middle school and this was going to be my sport, it's just the type of player I was. I didn't throw my frustrations around me. I kind of internalized that and just would always think forward. What do I need to do next? What do I need to do next?
Obviously, I think looking at that's an ideal way to be. We can't all be like that. And
no, absolutely
I think we
not.
have to look at PT and see it as a positive thing to an extent, that he's holding himself accountable. And honestly, he's just pissed off that he's not living up to. You know, he's got a huge weight on his shoulders. South American Player of the Year. People are expecting you to come in and be incredible. He's got a big price tag on him. He's kind of in a position that Barco was in last year.
And he kicked the right guy's chair. I mean, Brett Shea was like not even going to care.
Brett Shea's in the clouds. I don't know. Have you ever seen a picture of Brett Shea looking into the camera when they do that match picture?
This has become funny.
He literally looks like this.
He's always looking the wrong
every time
direction.
He's in the stars. Like I don't know what he's on before games, but I mean, the photographer needs to be like, it's like when you've got a baby, you know, when you're holding a baby in a family picture and you're like, Breck over here, Breck, like, it's
now
crazy.
I wonder if he's doing it on purpose. It's sort of, I mean, maybe he's messing with us.
Yeah, he's like, I want these guys to think I don't know what I'm doing, and I want them to think, so then they expect me to play bad, so then if I play well, I've done better than they're expecting.
Everybody's very pleased.
It's double reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Breck Shea is the smartest player in the universe, I'm telling you.
Possibly, I don't know, but I think on this picture thing, he might be yanking her chain a little bit. It's kind of funny. I think it happened once or twice, and maybe it was an accident. And it would be funny if he's doing it on purpose now.
I think you've killed the joke now. You're ahead of the game, Jillian. Come on, stop being so quick. Speaking of quick.
But
Tito.
I don't think it was a problem with the tantrum coming off the field. I really don't. I didn't like the fact that he didn't shake Tito's hand, but you know, it's a minor thing. It was a blip. It's not something I really, other than people just keep talking about it, I wouldn't keep talking about it.
He had a better game though, didn't he? I think he played a lot better. I think he was frustrated because he'd put in a couple of really good balls right before he was substituted off. I think he put one on a plate for Joseph almost when Joseph slid in. I think last season he would have put that in the net every single time. So I saw a lot more positivity from PT in the game towards the sort of mid-mark when he was taken off.
And it was important for him to start and spend those minutes in the game. I mean, I think Frank had said this, and it's true. You know it's true as a player. You know, training is great, but there's just no substitute of minutes in the game and gaining that experience.
And that's why it's called match fitness.
Right.
You get match fitness only in matches. Speaking, but like we said, Tito came on.
What an explosion.
That was good, right?
It was good, right? Yeah, it was. It was. You can feel his energy when he comes on the field. It's hard because I know a lot of fans want to see him start all the time, and they're very loyal to Tito, and of course
they like his hair, they like his thighs,
right?
They like his eyes.
I mean, he has his own dedicated fan pages everywhere.
There's the Tito hair watch. I think the new Tito thigh watch. Maybe the Tito Frenchie watch. I know he's got a dog.
It's a lot.
Tito is literally. If I could get,
favorite.
Look, I've got some good raffle prizes for Soccer in the Streets, but if I could get a pair of Tito shorts, I think I would raise enough money to open like 6 stations across Soccer in the Street.
He would do it. He would do it. He would do it for you. I think
I might have to write it. Well, next time Terminus has those letters, I'm going to be like, Dear Tito, could you please get me a pair of your shorts to raffle off for a kids charity? Thanks.
If he can get your message, he will do it. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that can get that message.
Get me some shorts for Tito de Villalba. I will raffle them off, and I will buy a station for kids that need access to soccer.
And she said this publicly, so you know she's not going to keep them for herself.
I don't think Sebastian would be too happy if I had another man's shorts like under my pillow. That might be a little bit of an issue for my marriage, honestly, Jillian.
Well, just don't let anybody know when you have them because your house might get broken into.
There are people driving down to Noonan, Georgia, just to steal my Tito Villalba
You're going to
shorts.
have all sorts of new friends that are kind of surrounding you. Yeah.
Swarming.
It's the truth. Men, women, it doesn't matter. I mean,
there's a lot of man crushes out there for Tito. I think Jay might have one, honestly. A poquito was his wording. But he had a great performance. It was good, and he played the super sub role.
He did
perfectly.
He did, and he. So, anyways, you know, I think fans would like to see him starting. They like it when he starts, but he really has this great role when he comes on like that, and it affects the game.
Because he's so quick. He's playing against tired defenders, and it's tactical. Yes. When you have someone that's fast anyway from the start, you then put him against defenders that have already played 60 minutes. Yeah. Imagine being exhausted, looking at the bench and knowing Tito Villalba's coming on to run at you for the next 30 minutes. Right. If I'm a defender, I'm like, what the? Here we go again. It's a different style of play, and I think it works.
I do too.
I think he needs to get more minutes sometimes, but fans just have to learn that players have their roles to play, and
this is a good role for him.
And he contributed to the goal.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm happy for him. It's good to see. I think there's a lot of people asking for him to start against KC because of the way they play and how high pressure might work on causing them errors.
I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, Frank has to look at, who are we playing? What is their style? Are we home? Are we away? How are people going to play against us in particular?
But it's interesting that we're doing that more this season.
Yeah.
We're looking at the opposition and altering based on them. I think last season potentially we played more our own game no matter who we were playing against.
It's true.
This season we're having to look a little bit more at the opposition. We're having to adjust. And adapt because we don't have quite that invincibility that we had last year, that if we played our own way it was going to be successful no matter how we faced.
Right.
So I think that's really interesting.
Every single time. I mean, we had the better players most of the time. I'll just make up a number. I do this all the time. So, I always say if you've got the better players, you're going to win 90% of the time. That's totally made up, but you get the picture. I mean, we had the better players against most of our opponents, and it doesn't mean a lesser team can't beat you. They will sometimes. The thing about soccer is that the stronger team is only slightly stronger, and so that's why anything can happen. So I think we are in a situation where Frank is leading these adjustments. Depending on who we're playing, the players have to adjust themselves on the field to the play when they get on there, and work together to get that done. We've got great players, but we don't have Lionel Messi or that's always going to be performing like crazy no matter what the scenario is. We do have players that I think you could see it in the game on Saturday where it was really frustrating, and they came in after the halftime and they'd adjusted. They probably got very good information from a higher level about what the technical staff was seeing on the field and Frank, and did what they needed to do. They needed to speed it up. There's only a few ways to deal with that level of defense and that deep of defense. And you're going to have to beat people one-on-one. And that's exactly what Nagby did, and that's what led to that goal. He did one of the few tactics you can use in that situation, and you saw Barco drawing people off the ball to this side of the field to get the ball to the other side of the field quickly. That's the other tactic that you can use. And so
it instills faith in your technical team when you see those adjustments being made, and so I think they played as good of a game on Saturday as our players. They adapted, and it went well, so that's nice.
They had a huge impact on the game, the technical staff, and this. Sometimes I believe more so than the coach in some instances. The technical staff can really affect the performance of the players in match and in training. They're seeing, they're hyper focused on certain things, or they're seeing the big picture of things in a way that the player can't see it on the field. They obviously came out and made adjustments in the second half, and again, it was still a little frustrating. Well, it was frustrating because there were so many people in front of the goal, and it was hard to deal with. But that run with Nagby was beautiful and perfect, and it resulted in a goal
and a fantastic effort.
He did exactly what he needed to do. And Jillian Gressel was there for it, and he put the ball in. And that's all that mattered.
Jillian Gressel was there to put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, if you're in Germany, you would say Jillian Gressel. So.
No, I said Jillian. Jillian Gressel. Come on, Jillian.
Jillian Gaffigan.
I need my English microphone. She didn't get my joke. Come on, you got to hold your English microphone. Jillian Gressel. So one more thing I wanted to touch on about the MLS. Kelly and I talked about it for a while last Queens of the South episode, and that is Kaku. Kaku for his crowd kicking ball incident. Only received 2 extra games, so a 3-game ban in total. How did you feel about that?
I think it's low. It's a little unprecedented. I don't think that I don't recall such a kind of grave instance against a fan.
I mean, Neymar punched a fan. Did you see that this weekend?
Yeah, but not in MLS.
No.
But I don't remember an instance in MLS where there was like a situation like that, where, especially on, there was no inciting by this fan, which can happen. We both know this when tensions are high. And
I might have been an inciter a few times.
Oh, really?
No. What are you talking about? Who talks trash to soccer players?
Tell stories. So, there have been situations, you know it and I know it, where fans have incited a player in a terrible way. And this just wasn't the case. This was just a guy minding his own business in the stands, and there wasn't anything like that going on. It was purely his temper tantrum. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. There isn't an argument about whether he meant it or he didn't.
No, you took a risk. You went to smash a ball, full pelt, at an advertising hoarding. Right. You either have terrible aim or you're lying, and either way it's not okay. You took the risk. Yeah, you took the risk. You shot a ball, maybe you missed. You smash a fan in the face. Take responsibility.
There was a lot that went out. Did he mean it? Didn't he mean it? It doesn't matter. We all know it's on camera. He's sort of guilty of the crime. So that needs to be pushed aside, and it was. And so now we were all just waiting to see what the punishment would be, what would happen with the suspensions. And I think it's a little unprecedented, so maybe MLS was a little afraid to go too harsh. I don't know why. I think in the U.S. normally we put the smackdown on unproductive behaviors, whether it's from a fan or whether it's from a player
towards the officials
or whether it's a coach. We usually levy out. We want to snuff behaviors out like that.
You kind of hold people accountable and set
we do not sweep things under the rug in the U.S. Like you see in some other countries with some of the behaviors that go on. So I was surprised. I don't think it's strong enough to send that message. And what I worry about is the slippery slope, whether it's with Kaku himself, because you as an individual can say, I got away with this. What am I going to get away with the next time? You're not really getting too harsh of a penalty for the behavior that you exhibited. So does it get worse and worse? Some players it does. We've seen this. Or does it kind of feed to other players? Well, Kaku really didn't get in much trouble, so
my biggest
it's okay for me to continue to have these tantrums that could result in. So in general, I don't like to see tantrums in general anyway.
Jillian should never watch me play soccer tennis. We won't be friends anymore after that.
But, this is the thing. For some people, it gets them fired up, and for some people, they don't prefer to see it. I don't prefer to see it, but I don't think it's a problem. If you want to do it, that's fine. I got to see your next soccer tennis match and heckle you a little bit. But anyways, I just think that it's a behavior that things can start going the wrong. And I have seen it in other cultures. I have seen it in the sport in other countries where behaviors are kind of swept under the rug and they continue to
look at racism. Look at the way racism isn't punished, and then people think they can get away with it. It gets worse. The monkey chants, the banana skins, it's appalling. Right. But when people get, when they just get a ban from a stadium,
and they're not even getting that. No, we've got the technology to find that person. If you go to a game in Italy, they've got your name, your passport, your birth date, your ID. You have to provide that information to obtain a ticket. So they can identify who you are and ban you for life.
But they just choose not to.
They choose not to. Sometimes it has occurred, but I think the past couple of instances, there really hasn't been a lot of repercussion there or diving into it. You have that feeling as an American watching that happen, that it gets a little swept under the rug. And I have conversations with people in Italy and Germany and other countries, and I'll say, well, what did you think about this? And they'll say, oh, I've seen worse. Yeah. That's sort of I've seen worse. And so
it's terrifying. It's terrifying that we're in 2019 and it's just accepted. It's part of the game. It's part of the,
But if you look at social media, it's getting a little more from just the general population. And I think that's what it's going to take. It's sort of that general population of fan, not that hardcore fan that sweeps it in the team or the league.
But also the players that are standing up to it. Raheem Sterling did an excellent job and calling that out and kind of putting his neck on the line a little bit, standing up, talking up against, FIFA, saying it's unacceptable.
Right.
I think he's been brave and he's kind of risking being scapegoated by the organizations, but for him, it's about a bigger thing. It's about protecting the kids that look up to him. It's about protecting kids that were him, you know, that he was rather 10 years ago. So,
and I think for all of us, you know, a statement that I make all the time is you have to put humanity before the game.
It's a beautiful
and so with Kaku, you know, coming back to him, you know, who cares? He hasn't seemed real genuine in his apologies. I think that's a problem. He's young. I think people can make mistakes.
Yeah, but he's just a dislikable character. He's just a snob. I mean, his agent didn't get his coffee. His agent didn't get his Uber. Like,
so if he had actually come back and said, "Oh my gosh, I've made this horrible mistake," and
is this guy okay? Like, this guy has literally, like, I've read stuff that potentially had a concussion. Like, he's actually seriously hurt, and it's just a bit selfish. But
so that's his own brand that he's hurting, and that's his problem. I think that the rest of it is all of our problem, and I wish that there had been a little steeper penalty. I know that there's a players association that probably is kind of negotiating and coming back. If they said we want 10 games, they were like, we want 1 game, whatever. However, it ended up at 2 is amazing to me. I still would have thought that there would be a little bit of back and forth, and we don't know what happened there, but 2 games. It's 2 games, and it seems insufficient, I think,
particularly
for a lot
for the
of us.
guy. I think most importantly for the guy that got hurt. I just hope he sues the shit out of him. But I
think he will.
I mean, Americans love to sue. Like I said,
we're a very litigious society in the U.S. So yeah, I think there probably is going to be some sort of
financial settlement. Yes, indeed. But on to something a bit more positive. Okay. I see you all the time on Twitter talking about Atlanta United 2.
Yeah.
I love how much you care about it, and I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a novice to Atlanta United 2. I haven't been to any games yet. As everyone knows, I'm based super down south, and now it's in Kennesaw. It's even more of a trek. But I think basically what I want to hear is what engages you so much about Atlanta United 2, and why do you think it's so important to be there?
Well, it's a different season for all of us as fans with AU2. I mean, I didn't go to a single game last year. I wasn't going to. I know the stadium that it was at, that didn't really interest me. The team wasn't performing that well. It didn't really interest me. I think the first 2 things that happened that gained my attention was, number one, the announcement of the new head coach, which is not new to us as an organization. Stephen Glass, who was the head coach of the Atlanta United Academy, became the head coach of AU2. So that was a big move. For those of you that don't know him, look him up. He played for Newcastle United. I think he might have played for the Rails in the NASL. He's had several coaching jobs before coming to Atlanta United Academy. So that got me a little bit excited. And so the second big news was that the team was moving and would start playing out of KSU 5th and 3rd Bank Stadium at Kennesaw State University, 10 minutes from my house.
Sorry for some. Like, I think there were a lot of other people that were kind of like, what the hell, that's so far away.
But I'm going to make an argument that that my far away when it was at Coolray was justified.
I mean, no one wants to go to Gwinnett.
And that you're far away now to come to KSU might be worth your time, just for 1 or 2 games. So, you know, the thing about this stadium is it was built to be soccer specific.
I've actually played in it. We used to play against Kennesaw State. It's a really nice stadium, a great pitch.
And I've never seen a football game there for the university, but I've watched a lot of soccer there through the years. I've watched lacrosse there. There's always a variety of tournaments, women's college events that go on. So I've been up there several times, even before the match for CCL with Herediano, which was a thrill.
Oh my God. That was a fun night.
It was a thrill to see that stadium just jam-packed. It was crazy. It was fun. And of course, a great outcome. But it's a good little stadium, and I really like it. It's soccer specific. It reintroduces terraces to fans. I love how newer stadiums are doing this, and it's not that new. But the terraces are part of what makes that atmosphere very nice, very intimate. It gives you a great view. So I knew these things about the stadium, so I got excited about that. And I'm excited about Stephen Glass. And I'm excited because now I'm thinking, I know Atlanta United is a powerhouse when it comes to fan engagement. They were not doing the things in terms of fan engagement for AU2 last year.
Yeah, whoever they've signed on the media department.
Well, I mean, I think it still falls under the greater umbrella of Atlanta United, and so there's employees that work on both, if I'm correct. But I could see that there were people being hired specifically for Atlanta United to do some sort of grassroots community involvement, you know, try to get those youth groups, those companies that are in the Cobb County, Cherokee, Paulding area to organize outings to go, whether it's, you know, so all sorts of groups, churches and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and any type of organized group. So I knew that they were making that effort, and I thought that's going to be really cool. It's going to be nice. Yeah, it's going to be really nice. So the next thing that happened was, you know, I don't drink at games, and I drink very rarely, but occasionally I drink some wine, and so
are you Alex Morgan in disguise?
And so, I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody else. You know, I've done things like drunk donated to TIFO for the team. $100 just gone.
I wish I had $100 in my account to randomly donate.
To a great cause. And so I had lunch with a friend one day, and she had said that she had an email into the team to try to find out about season tickets for AU2, and I was like, wow, I didn't think about that, right? So I went home, and I'd had a few glasses of wine, and I Googled it. I thought, I bet the information's out there. So I Google it, I find it, and then I'm like, well, how much are they? So I go a little further, and I see how much they are. I'm like, well, that's a bargain. Now I wonder where those tickets would be. So I go to the next step, right? And before I knew it, I'd hit the pay now for 2 tickets in the front row, and I have season tickets now. So now I'm fully invested. Right?
Now you have to go.
Right. I did miss the first 2 games because I was in Italy, just like the Atlanta United games. I gave those tickets away. That was another component of it. I don't care. The tickets are cheap. I'd rather engage another fan by just giving those tickets to them to let them go. So, you know, it was a good all-around package. So when I got back from Italy and I got to go to my first game, you know, I wrote up a big sort of little post about it, about why people should go. And you can tailgate, you know, you go there, you tailgate, it's a beautiful day. The parking lots are very close. Your access into the stadium, out of the stadium is very quick, it's very fast. There's low attendance. I don't care where you buy a ticket. You can sit wherever you want, and nobody's going to give you a problem about this right now. I mean, the attendance has been tracking around 2,000, anywhere between 2 and 2,500. So nobody hassles you on this. You know, I go in as a season ticket holder, and people address me by name. They remember who I am, which is a nice touch. I mean, so it's not just the it is the Atlanta United, what they've done in terms of fan engagement. It's also the people that are working at 5th and 3rd have very good training. If they see you kind of trying to take a selfie with a group of people, the staff will walk up and say, let me take that picture for you. I mean, it's just, there's little touches like that that are very fun, very nice. You know, it's a great social environment. It's not overly crowded. It's a great place to meet your friends. And so unlike the Atlanta United games where I'm very intent on the match, at these...
You get a chance to relax.
I do relax. And I actually do have a glass of wine when I'm there, which I never do at other games. It's more of a social environment for me. I really enjoy the kids running around. You don't really have to watch the kids too hard. You know, they just sort of run through the terraces and do the things they want to do. So I think it's a very enjoyable atmosphere for the kids and parents.
And I think what we were talking about...
It's not just family oriented. I mean, there's big groups of employees that come. Last week, Aaron Rent's organization had bought, and I met the guy that did it, bought 250 tickets for their employees, and they were there. They had noisemakers. They had their same T-shirt on. So of course it turns out to be a great team building event for them. But it was fun for me to hear their cheering and look behind me and see them all dressed in the same shirt. I think it's good for the company because we all see them up there.
It's marketing.
Right. So they're getting a benefit too. Because that looks like a fun company to work for now. And they're getting some brand awareness about their company and so forth. So, but they had a really good time. It really put a smile on my face to meet some of those employees, to see them there enjoying themselves. So those are the kinds of things that you can do. And you know, the supporter groups still show up. They show up with their drums. It's not as loud as what you're used to. It might be just a little smattering, ragtag group of people, but I often go down to the supporter section and sit there and cheer with people. I kind of move around throughout the stadium. The players interact with the fans a lot. They're always available to take photos and to get autographs after the game. They're very generous about this. Andrew Carlton, at a game I was at recently, gave I think it was a 7-year-old, a shirt after the match because it was his birthday. So, I mean, I think you have a really good opportunity to interact with fans, the fans with the players. Last week when I was there, last Wednesday, Frank DeBoer was there. I got a picture with him.
I saw that one.
You saw the second one. So the first one didn't turn out very good. And so because the gentleman I had take the picture, he only took one. You know,
that's the worst. When those people stand there for 20 minutes and they look like they're taking 17 pictures, you look back and it's one and you've got your eyes closed. I mean, come on, man. What were you doing for 10 minutes? Like, you're lying to me. Just press and hold down the bloody button and take 30 pictures.
Right.
That's what real stand-in photographer does, and that's what I do. So if anyone ever wants a picture taken,
you're the girl.
I'm the girl.
Well, I'll remember that. So I have another friend that said, well, I'll go take another picture of you and Frank. And so I was a little nervous, like, oh, I don't want to go back and ask him.
You don't want to be that girl, like, hey, I look ugly in that first picture.
Yeah, so I had an idea. So I went down there and said, Frank, do you think I could take another picture with you? Your eyes were closed.
So you lied.
I did.
Frank, if you ever watch this podcast, Jillian lied to you. You look great in that picture.
He did. He looked great. And his reaction was this. My eyes were closed? My eyes were closed?
That's Dutch people. They're very uptight.
And so I was like, no. My eyes were closed. It wasn't yours. So he leans in, takes the picture. It was great. He was very, very generous and gracious to do that, and I thanked him. And you know, I also think that this was a good move on fan engagement for Atlanta United. They had him parked on the corner, easily accessible to fans. Darren Eales kind of stayed on the inside of the sliding glass door, and I think it gave Frank an opportunity to be approached. It gave the fans an opportunity.
Seemed more approachable.
And he was very approachable. He was very friendly. He didn't get my joke about his eyes being closed, but that's okay. And
you needed your English microphone. Come on, it's how everyone understands the jokes.
So, but you know, he gave everybody a photo that wanted to and talked to anybody that wanted to talk to him.
That's awesome.
I thought it was a good move. And that's the other thing, is that some of the AU players do show up there. You don't know when they're going to come. You might be surprised.
So if you want to meet Tito, you never know.
He might be
he'll be at the next AU2 game.
George Bello was walking around. People got pictures with him. I mean, you know, you have these players that move between. You have them, right, that move between the two teams, between the MLS team and the reserve team, and then in general, you're going to have some times where the players or other VIPs are asked to go up to the AU2 game. It is they want to. I'm sure Frank wants to see those matches in person when he can.
And that's what I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on the purpose in terms of soccer of Atlanta United too. So as far as I'm concerned, it's very similar to a reserve team in England, where it's kind of a place where these players that may be second string are getting match fitness minutes, as we talked about with PT, getting game time, getting to get on the pitch and try things out, realizing, you know, getting up to speed with things and giving the coach a chance to watch players in a real game situation, because you can't pick players based on their performance in practice all the time. You need to see them in the real game, and I wonder whether that's where, for instance, Dion Pereira, who was playing extremely well in AU2, Dion actually went to my rival high school in England.
Did he?
Yeah, I need to get hold of him somehow, because he went to Queen's and I went to Parmeters, and we were both.
I didn't know that.
We were both Watford Academy schools, and we didn't like each other very much. So yeah, he's from 10 minutes from around me, but he's been performing really well with AU2, and then he got to play in a big boys game, so to say. And I like to see that comparison to Europe, how they're using it as either a platform for young players to get minutes, but also for injured players to get back up to speed.
Right.
Would that be a fair assessment for you, a good comparison to an extent?
In some cases, yeah. I mean, it is a professional league. It falls under the MLS hierarchy. It's actually called USL Championship League. And there's two conferences. There's an Eastern and a Western conference, 18 teams each. So it's big, it's fairly big. And some of these teams are tied into an MLS team directly and some are not. So to what you're saying, in some cases, yes. But some of these teams, like the Tampa Bay Rowdies, they're
standalone.
They're standalone. So, but that's why we're
using it for that purpose.
Right. That's why we have it. Other teams that have that there's a Galaxy team. There's I know there's a Red Bulls team. I don't know all the teams. One of the ways that I'm getting more engaged with it is I'm kind of taking it match by match. So when we play Ottawa, then I go out and I learn more about the Ottawa team.
That's cool.
And that's sort of my approach.
So you're going to be the USL Championship knowledge lady coming up?
No, I mean, I want to educate myself a little bit more, but I absorb so much soccer information on a weekly basis. There's no way I'm going to learn everything about this league, and that's just how I've chosen to kind of approach this year that I've decided to have season tickets and make the most of it, is to kind of go match by match and say, we're playing Tampa Bay, so let me learn more about Tampa Bay, their players, what's going on there. And then it was Ottawa, which was an away game for us this past weekend. Next week we play Nashville.
That's a cool one.
Soon be a MLS team. So that's a home game on Saturday. So that'll be interesting.
So one last question from you from watching the games. If you had to pick 2 or 3 players from AU2 that you think could potentially, progress into the first team this season, who stands out for you?
Well, I mean, we have some that already have that are floating kind of. I don't know enough yet to pick a new one that's I don't know exactly who's contracted both directions. But you have George Bello, you have your friend from England, DP. I think the coach calls him DP. Andrew Carlton, George Bello. Who else do we have? Yeah, so it's those players are now have a little bit in the past and I think have even more so this season had that opportunity to kind of float a little bit more back and forth between the MLS team and AU2, and it's interesting. I think it probably makes our team hard to scout because
you never know who's going to play.
Right, you don't know who's floating back and forth, and I think that that's a challenge for the other USL teams that we come up against. What I've seen so far in terms of play, and I do get just as intense when that whistle blows about even though I find it a more social environment, and I kind of let myself go a little bit when that whistle blows, I'm really intent on the game again. And, I think that this is a team that likes to play beautiful football. They want possession of the ball. They have very dangerous movement up the field. And I've also seen some breakdowns, against more experienced teams. But I've liked what I've seen. I've found the games fun, and I'm not encouraging everybody to be a season ticket holder like myself, but I am encouraging people to use, if you're a season ticket holder and you got that 6 game or
free passes,
use them and let me know that you're coming and we'll have fun. And if you are looking for a more economical way to kind of get into the game or bring your children to a game, this is it. And it's a good, friendly environment to do that in.
Safe space. It's a safe, cheap space to try the game. If you don't want to spend, $30-40 on a ticket for your 4-year-old, it's a nice place to try their attention, see if they can watch it through a real game.
And even older kids that are involved in the game, it's always good to show them professional athletes in person, in stadium.
Real role models that they can meet as well.
And just because this is a second-tier division under MLS doesn't mean you're not going to see good soccer. You're going to see good soccer, and it's sometimes it's every bit as elegant. A lot of these second-tier leagues are more competitive than the first-tier leagues. I think in the Western Conference last year of USL, there was only 15 points that separated the top of the table from the middle after 34 games.
It's impressive.
That's pretty tight. It was bigger on the East, and I don't think the Eastern Conference is as competitive and tight, but the Western Conference looks like it's trending that direction again this year. You're going to see good soccer. It's worth it.
I think you pretty much convinced me to go watch a game, so let's all plan a day. Let's plan a day where everyone gets down and goes to sports of twos, because at the end of the day, these may well be the future players in Atlanta United, you know?
Some of them will be.
So talking about Atlanta United, coming up for Atlanta United is Sporting KC this Sunday, 9 p.m., a late one. Not a fan of those.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a rundown on KC. They're conceding a lot of goals in the last couple of games. They tied 4-4 with the 10 men of New England Revolution this weekend, and before that it was a 4-1 loss to San Jose. So what would you expect from Atlanta United in this game? If you look at those results, what would you want from Atlanta United?
Well, I mean, they seem a little disorganized, so they're conceding a lot of goals, and so I think that this is a time to test PD, and I think we're going to see something.
Is he going to score a goal this weekend?
I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think this is a good opportunity for him, and we've been saying that week by week, and so fingers crossed, but I think this might be a very good opportunity for them. They do. That was a crazy game on Saturday that they just played. I mean, it really.
I think the equalizer is in the 89th minute. It was end-to-end stuff, lots of goals, and.
I mean, I came in after coming home. I watched the last 5 minutes of the Red Bulls game, saw the score, moved on, saw Kansas City was playing, so I turned that on since I knew we were going to play them, and I think I was at about the 30th minute, and within 10 minutes, I came in, the score was 1-0. They already had a man down on a red card, and I think 10 minutes later, the score was 3-1, and I started tweeting like crazy, is anybody watching this game? Because I knew probably a lot of people were out after the Atlanta United game, and it was just nuts. Every couple of minutes there was a major event, whether it was a yellow card or a goal or a penalty kick or another red card. It was bonkers the whole time. So it was fun for me after watching the Atlanta United game, number one. It was fun for me to see Kansas City in a little bit of disarray, because they are a team that worries me. I think they are a good team, but they're not doing so well right now.
I think they're going to be more of an offensive threat to us. I think our defense is going to have a better performance. They're conceding a lot of goals. They're scoring a decent amount of goals.
Right.
So I think it'll be an interesting game, but I really do hope we can get on the score sheet and start showing a little bit more of our clinical finishing, because I think that's been our biggest issue this season, has been we're creating some chances, but our finishing isn't good enough, you know. Right. We're creating 1v1s, we're missing them. We need to put the ball in the back of the net consistently in this game.
Well, and Kansas City I don't think is going to play like what we saw last week. I don't think we're going to have that hurdle of parking the two buses in front of the goal. So I think that we're going to see our players be able to move throughout the field, pass, and create chances in a way more that is in alignment with what we're used to seeing. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think it's hard to come back off of a week like they just had and 1 week of training.
And they'll be missing.
To regain all that.
So what's your score prediction?
Well,
I'm putting you on the spot.
I have the ones that where I'd like it to be.
Okay, give me your realistic score prediction and then your hopeful score prediction.
I think it's going to be 2-1.
What would you like it to be?
2-0.
I think we're going to concede. Sorry, but I don't think we're stable enough at the back. I think
we aren't.
We will probably create an error. We're our own worst enemies at the back, and a lot of the goals we're conceding aren't through miraculous forward play. It's through defensive lapses and errors on our part. So I think I'll go with a 3-2.
You're going 3-2.
I'm going with 3-2 us.
Based on
last, their previous results. They're scoring a lot. We're conceding a lot. But I think we might find our rhythm up top, and I think we're really going to push to get that back-to-back win that we've been, so desperate for.
Right.
So coming up with us on Unrelegated, I've just had to drop out of the New York trip, sadly. But Jay, Kelly, Devin, Tanner, they're all going. They're all going to the Red Bulls game, so that'll be an exciting one. I think they're going to have some really cool stuff in May. If you are going to, you should add us, let us know. I'm sure they'd love to hang out, have some fan cams, all that jazz, so that'll be a good one. Wish I could be there. But life happens, life happens. Jillian,
Yeah.
where can they find you on social media?
I'm at Jill or Jillian Gaffigan on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everything.
So you need to like, subscribe, and share this episode if you're watching on the Atlanta United Fan TV YouTube channel. I'm not used to doing all this. This is Kelly's part. You can find us at Unrel ATL, that is UNREL ATL, on all forms of social media. Jay is at J_Riddle. Kelly's at all social media platforms. That's how she says it, all social media platforms, at the Kelly Francis, and I'll be on Twitter at Jessica ATL UTD. Jillian, you are the most knowledgeable person I know. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And
thanks for having me.
We'll be back on Queens of the South in 2 weeks' time, and Alex Morgan may be back with me. I'm hoping so, because I want a selfie with the most incredible US Women's National Team player in the world. Love you, Kelly.